What is up, everybody? My name is Augie Schmidt. I'm the founder of REC, and in this video, we're going to tell you more about what the future of prospecting looks like in commercial real estate. Prospecting has been done the same way for such a long time, all the way back to a Rolodex and a desk phone. It moved to an Excel spreadsheet and a cell phone, and it has been done that way for probably 2 or almost 3 decades now, but the game is changing, and in this video, we are going to show you exactly how. First thing to start us off, I just want to say thank you
Yeah, no
for all
problem.
y'all showing up today. We've got 99. All right. So I think we'll hit 100, but we've got 100 folks in the chat. And for you to spend your time here with us really just means a great deal. It's your most valuable resource. Really, it's our goal to make this time as valuable as humanly possible to you. To get us started, I want to talk a little bit about like why we're here and what's really like the point of discussion. What's the topic? Really, you got to start by thinking like, what's the problem? I believe that the problem is that prospecting in commercial real estate is dated. Okay. And I might get some pushback from this, especially some of the more seasoned folks in the crowd. That's, cold calling solely is king. But I want to talk about all of this and hash it out here together. My question for you to start us off and to rely just on the cold calling method of how commercial real estate prospecting has always been done. My question for you is like, how many spam calls do you get per day? Like, I don't know if I'm on like some bad lists or whatever, but I get terrorized with phone calls, right? And I'm sure many of you do as well. So if this is our point of contacting clients, how are we going to break through the noise? Okay. So like I said, some of the more seasoned folks that like they've been in the business for 10, 15, 25 years and they have the relationships and they make cold calls or people know their name, sure, that might be a more effective strategy. But say for the up and comers, for the people that are trying to go gain market share, how do you grab that attention? So a lot of us know that like we're in the attention economy, and this is not like a social media rant, but more focused on prospecting and getting to prospects. Like a cold call nowadays is just really not going to do the trick most of the time. Just be thinking of that, like the earning attention. Think of that dynamic as we go through this presentation. What we've been doing in commercial real estate previously, it was a Rolodex, right? And it was a desk phone. Okay. But now it's an Excel spreadsheet and it's a cell phone. Okay. And it's been done that way since I've been in the business, probably the past 20 years, 25 years or so. It's been spreadsheets and a cell phone. But like I said, 25, 30, 40 years before that, it was Rolodexes and desk phones. Okay. So I just want to look at another industry really quick to show you how far behind we actually are. And the use case for this is going to be buying a candle for my mom's birthday. Okay. So this may or may not have actually happened, but check this out. I go to buy a candle for my mom's birthday. Okay. I visit the website. They're now tracking me. Okay. Because I visited their website. All right. Well, guess what? I put a candle in the cart, right? But I didn't check out. I didn't buy the candle. Okay. I got sent an email within 24 hours with a discount code for this candle. Okay. And not only that, they didn't get me then. Like I didn't use the discount code. I didn't buy the candle. Okay. But after that, on Facebook and Instagram and like every other website I go to, I'm getting targeted ads to buy this candle. Okay. Even with the discount code. And there's like urgency behind it. They're like, hey, you haven't to, that we're running this special for the rest of the week to get your candle. Okay. And not only that, okay, you think of all these things and the technicality behind it, all of the tracking that goes with it for when you go to buy a candle. Not only that, when the holidays roll around, say like early December, I get a phone call from a sales rep and they want to sell me candles, right? Like they're running this special promotion. They knew I was on their website 3, 4 months ago, and now they're calling me to sell me candles at the holidays. Okay. So let's think about how technical this process is to track me as a lead through this entire sales process. Okay. So this is a very, very technical sales process. I think we can all agree with that. But check this out. I was buying a candle, like a $10 candle. Okay. I put like one candle in the cart and it's $10, right? So we are selling multi-million dollar properties. Okay. We are often paid 6 figures and multiple 6 figures in order to do so. 7 figures if you're with BKREA in the northeast side of the country, right? But we are paid extremely well to transact these properties. And the candle sellers are crushing us with all these technical tools in order to make sales. Our sales process is an Excel spreadsheet and a phone, and we're selling multi-million dollar properties and they're selling candles. So that's where I think this thing's about to shake up. And I think, one thing we all need to realize here in a second, I'm going to call on Sijan and Faraz, and they're going to talk about the traits of the top producers of tomorrow. The goal of this to give you the framework that I believe what's going to shape prospecting for tomorrow, and you guys can establish this for yourself. All right. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and I'll let my man Sijan get into it. So the top producer traits of tomorrow, and the reason I wanted to do it this way, guys, is because really, if you put together a plan of, hey, what does the future of prospecting look like tomorrow? What we need to know is like the traits that you need to adopt first. This is like a be, do, have thing, right? So you have to be before you do the thing or have, right? So, Sijan, what do you need to be in order to be a top producer of tomorrow, in your opinion?
Okay, well, thanks for having me. I'm super excited about this, and I know Faraz is as well. It's I would say even more important now going in to 2025 pretty soon, and the tides are shifting. The world of commercial real estate has gone through a large transition in the last few years or so, as we've all seen, and transaction volumes down. It's harder to get deals done. Guys are leaving the industry, guys and gals, and we're just trying to figure out like how do we stay in the game? That's the thing that I ask myself every day. How do I just stay in the game? Because if you're passionate about commercial and you see this as your long-term game, you just got to find a way to stay in. The first trait I would say is courageous. So the reason why I say courageous is getting on the phones and cold calling a complete stranger is uncomfortable. And one of the things I also say is sometimes the more you know about who or what you are calling on, it can get even more intimidating. So pertaining to courageousness, like we were meant to do hard things. It gives us purpose in life. I deeply believe in that. And if you got into commercial, you definitely were meant to do hard things because being willing to get doors slammed on you, get hung up on, cursed out, it's worth the trade-off to me because one deal can literally change your life. And regardless, if you get the deal or not, the person that comes out on the other side of all of that, that's 100% worth it. The next trait, obsessed. I love this one because I believe that people sometimes mistake raw talent for obsession. So with commercial, I've been obsessed with the process. I'll do whatever I can and I try to divorce myself from the outcome. And I get that quote from Alex Ramosi, who I love deeply. But early on in the game, after hard days of cold calling, feeling sorry for myself at times, worrying about providing for my wife and three kids, I would just tell myself, I'd be in the gym, it'd be 9 p.m., be in the gym, and say, just work hard, shoot the shot, and divorce yourself from the outcome. I just kept thinking that over and over. I have to do this. I have to see it through. In my life, obsession on the process and getting super granular studying, but then most importantly, implementing, doing, taking action was what has always compounded in my life. So this is why I have obsessed on the goal of in the beginning was the bare minimum. I need to make $100 a day. Heck, I'd even many times I was doing 200 to 300, and on my biggest call day, I did about 400 dials. And I was just focused on do whatever it takes. It was challenging mentally, it was challenging emotionally, but then the compounding volume helped me learn at a rate 100 times faster than just looking at articles, studying things about commercial, just seeing the trends. I wanted to get into the deal and learn while I was working the deal. So now, do you need to do $400 a day? You probably don't. But I was just obsessed with getting better. I wanted reps. And I believe in life, if you want to get really good at something, you need reps. And my last trait, and I might even say this is the most important trait, is you got to be thirsty. You have to want more for your life. I had a cushy career before this. I had great benefits, a great salary, wife and kids were taken care of, but I just deeply craved for more. It's looked down upon society for not just being content with your life, but if you have the courage to be real with yourself, being broke, unhappy, out of shape, never following through, breaking promises to yourself, I would suggest that's not a place in your life that you want to be content with. So, this is what I believe. These are the three traits that I deeply believe is what it takes to win moving forward. Is being courageous, being obsessed, and being thirsty.
Yeah. No, that's so good, brother. And this is what I love about this and what I know you practice and why I had you on here is because this is not a sum the time thing. I think that's a Vince Lombardi. It's like winning is not a sum the time thing. Winning is an all the time thing. So being courageous, obsessed, and thirsty, if you're getting after your prospecting activity for 2 weeks, good luck. It really is an all the time thing. So Faraz, brother, I'll let you jump in here.
Augie, thank you for having me. Augie, if you want, we can start with the traits.
Yeah. Let's roll.
All right, poor. Basically, what Bob says, like, there's this trait called, like, he likes hiring PhD, but it's not what you think. It stands for poor, hungry, and driven. And he would always joke with me that even though I'm not poor, I'm hungry and driven. Let's start with the poor factor. Look, commercial brokerage, this is an eat what you kill business. If you're complacent, if you have like another income coming in and you want to do this in the side, anybody that I've met that was somewhat comfortable and wanted to do this as a side hustle, I never saw them as top producers. You have to have that, first of all, like that financial incentive to do it. And usually the people that had, another income or they wanted to treat it as a side hustle, they never did well in this business. You have to be willing to keep improving yourself. I think because like once you get complacent, yeah, you might get like business here and there. Like, look, I was a broker that was constantly getting leads. I was getting like 10, 15 leads a day. Now, were they all great? Maybe only one or two. I left the pipeline of over 60 deals to my team back in DC. But, like Bob says, like if you're only complacent, what's going to end up happening is during the bad times, you're probably not going to do well. But if you're hungry and you're driven and, like during bad times, we usually don't have as much money in our pockets, but that's the time to sharpen your skills, right? You have to have those traits. And when I look back and like, I probably went through like over 30 agents in my team. And like over the years, I probably got more and more callous who I brought on and who I didn't, and it goes back to like what Bob mentioned about PhDs. You have to have those traits because first of all, if you're comfortable where you're at now, or like you're making side income or whatever, you're not going to be hungry to like get more of that business. And once you're there as a broker, if you're not willing to keep improving yourself, then you're not driven to do it. Like, you might be like, I'm okay being a six-figure broker, but like, look, like to me, I want to be the best. And like, look, I come from a family office background. To me, this is fun. I like eating what I killed. So I know I went on a little tangent. I figured I'd give some stories and give some
No,
insight of
I love that.
the Massey Knackle logic, which kind of when I look back, I said, you know what, like I could see that too.
That's great, man. I love that. And all these traits, like if you look at hungry and thirsty, if you look at, driven and obsessed, like these match up almost exactly. I almost told you guys and said pick new ones, but I said like this is it. There's really not a ton of secret sauce to it when it comes to the traits that somebody needs to be in order to be highly successful in this business. What's your go-to intro when you're calling an owner? I'm gonna call on C John for this one just because Manhattan is a different animal, and I think C John's market can probably be more generally speaking to the crowd.
Just to touch on that a little bit further, like no offense, but like I kind of have like a cheat code. If I just mention, hey, I'm Frost Chimo with Bob Knackles' office at BKREA, like nobody hangs up on us.
That's a cheat code. So that's his go-to. I love
Well,
that.
I might just use, oh, I'm friends with Faraz, so just take my call. I get asked this a lot. And I love sharing what works for me and what helps me get in the door. And a lot of what I've used, again, I've learned from some other people, but specifically Henry Eisenstein, he has a script and everything. But when I first started, it felt weird and I didn't know how to start these calls, but now it's actually truthful for what I'm about to say. If I hit somebody, I'm like, hey, Bob, and they're like, hello. I'm like, hey, Bob, this is C. John. I was calling about your building it. 123 Main Street, how you doing? And they're like, okay, what? And so I always say, hey, I've got a client. They're going through a 1031 exchange. Just curious if you'd consider an offer. And I'll leave it open. And nine times out of, and I try not to go too deep into detail. I know there's a lot of ways to do this, and what works for one broker may not work for the other, but it has opened a lot of conversations. And a lot of times they may just say, I'm not looking to sell anything. Okay, curious. Do you happen to have any other properties you might consider an offer on? If they still say no, then I'll try to flip it to a buyer. You just looking to acquire. But again, it's just nine times out of 10, I'm just trying to put it out there. And that is more just trying to get a deal done offer model. And we have like multiple clients that we're working with that are going through 1031 exchanges. And I have quite a few other private equity firms that are trying to move money. So that is my intro.
Frost, how many calls per day is it necessarily to be successful? And what about time management for deals, services, emails? How many hours per day do you work? Um, oh man, that's a long question. All right.
Yeah, just
So,
this
so
one of
no,
them,
no,
and then
I'm more enhanced. Like, all right, so cold calling. Um, I don't necessarily so I have a few buckets, right? One is like when I started at BKREA, like we go through one list of like all the people Bob knows because Bob doesn't have time in the day to go through that. And I go through my database of so between 14th Street and 60th Street, river to river, from 20,000 to 200,000 square feet, pre 1980s, which is pretty much BNC assets, which we're bumping it up to 30,000. There's 755 buildings. Out of those buildings, Bob knows about like 200 of those owners. Then I have another list. There's a former colleague of Bob, like he's licensed, but now he's on the principal side. He like, you got to leverage your relationship. So like I always tell people, like if there's somebody on your list that you want to call, try to figure out a way for like a warm call. Like, I have a guy back in DC. His name is Andrew Woods. Like, he's a moving guy. And like, whenever he's trying to reach out to somebody, he would always go on LinkedIn for see who they're mutually connected. And he would always hit me up like, hey, Froz, I know everybody reaches out to you on like LinkedIn. But, like, how well do you know this person? And like maybe 1 out of 5, I'll actually know them pretty well. More than happy to do a solid like intro text or intro email. Like, hey man, like you got to get to know Andrew. Andrew would like then take us out to lunch. It's much easier if you have the warm intro. Or like let's say if there's like who the lender is on that debt. I mean, look, like I'll hit up my guys at M&T, Bank of America, like, hey, I notice you're the lender on this asset. How well do you know the clientele? Leverage the connections you have to get to that end result. In terms of time management, New York is a little bit different of an animal. When I was back in DC, maybe 60 hours, but guys, in New York, I'm probably doing like 80 hours. And guys, like that's nothing. Like I know like a lot of my friends that are in the investment banking world, they're in the office from like 9 a.m. to like 2 a.m. Like it's just a different grind, but like you have to enjoy it.
one thing I'll say about the work week, this is good. This goes back and forth because I've got a good buddy in investment banking in New York as well, and it's a different animal up there. However, one thing I constantly push back on is, and I will say, maybe in New York, I'm not there, but you do not need to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week to be successful. I have 4 kids. I just had my fourth. And if I'm working 80 or 90 hours a week, then in my eyes, I'm a failure because I'm not providing them one most important thing, and that's being there for my family. Same thing with C. John or whoever else. But if you're young or single or you don't have kids or whatever, work your face off, do your thing. And I believe there's no shoulds in this world. Really, it's really what works best for you. So you should work 80 hours, you should work 40 hours. I like to delete the should thing and say whatever works best for you and your priorities of whatever that may be. We'll keep on rolling here. I told you guys I was going to give you a pretty sweet framework of what I thought was going to be next up in commercial real estate and how prospecting is going to look. So I want to deliver on my promise. There's only 2 ways to do deals in this business. The 2 ways that I want to talk about, really, this is like when you're repping buyers and sellers. And what I have found that the only 2 ways to do deals in this market, in this industry, is if the timing is right. And that's the first thing. Okay. So you pick up the phone and you call and the timing is right. Okay. And I want to give you an example for this. So there was a younger broker on my team, and I probably called this property owner like 8 or 9 months ago. Okay. And I've called him two, 3 times. All right. And then a young guy on my team calls him, 8 or 9 months later. And luckily he's on my team. And he's like, "Hey, just want to let you know we got a property tour Friday at 9 with, said the name and the address." And I was like, "What? Like, how did that happen? What do you mean?" I was like, "I've been calling this guy for 4 years, like 3 years. What do you mean?" Like, in my own ego, I was just like, there's no way this kid is better than me. Okay. Like, there's no way he's better on the phone. Like, how did this happen? Right. And it was simply the timing. Okay. It can be death, debt, divorce, a number of other things, the tenants causing mayhem, whatever it may be. But that's just an example of like, hey, the timing usually has to be right. So that's one of the ways to do deals in this business. And consistency will always win this game, right? Because if you're waiting for the time to be right out of 12 months, if you're the most consistent person, then like you give yourself the most shots at the timing being right. So hopefully that makes sense there. And so what we want to cover in this presentation is how are you going to be more consistent than your competition? And I'll kind of give you some tricks and things and framework here to do that shortly. And the second thing, so the second way to do deals, and y'all can stress test this, beat me up in the chat if you will. But the only other way to do deals is, one is the timing is right, but two is you are the first choice. You are who comes to mind when they're selecting a broker. Okay. So consistency obviously helps with this, right? But most often people and property owners, prospects, their minds go to who can execute at the highest level. Okay. So who in their mind is going to be the best fit for the job, right? So that's how you become their first choice. So what they like to think is, who knows the market best, right? So if you take, Bob Knackel, for an example, like if, a large handful of property owners go to sell their property in New York or in Manhattan, it's like who is going to be, who is going to be the person that comes to mind? A lot of people's minds, it's going to be Bob, right? And that's just undeniable proof over time. So how do we gain that, and how do we become first choice in their mind? And they also think who is active. So if there's somebody with 100 signs in the market that they're driving up and down every day, and they see those signs, like that's really going to help you be their first choice as well. And ultimately they need someone they can trust. If you come to mind first, it could be a bad thing, honestly. Like you could have screwed somebody in the market and have a terrible reputation. So coming to mind first is not exactly the thing, but being their first choice is based on the level and capacity and the competency that you have as a broker, and also being somebody that they can trust. Okay. So the top producers of tomorrow, I tried to find a cool acronym for this, but I just didn't. Sorry, guys. Okay. Sorry to disappoint on the cute acronyms. Top producers of tomorrow will be more consistent. They will be better trusted, and they'll be tenacious. Okay. And I want to talk really, real quick about the tenacity. A lot of the things that we all feel as stressors in our everyday life can be channeled for tenacity. Okay. And whatever your situation is, whether you're going into retirement and you don't have enough investments or savings or whatever it may be, you got young kids and you're paying for schools and medical bills and all these things, or you're just living everyday life and paying bills or paying 5 grand a month for a studio in New York. Okay, like things are expensive. But I will say, with tenacity, you can take these things in your life and you can use them because it's gonna feel like pressure, right? But I've often heard and always like repeat to myself that the pressure that I feel, the pressure when I go into the office, the pressure when doing anything is a privilege. Okay, so what does that do to you, and what does that do to your work ethic, right? And so I think taking that tenacity, from those responsibilities that you have, from those pressures that you have, is a great way to then go turn that into results. And I know for me personally, the time that I've seen the most improvement in my own career was I was making 30K starting out in the business, and I became a single dad with 2 kids and less than like 3 grand in my bank account. Okay. And I was making 30 grand a year. The amount of pressure that was on me to provide was insurmountable. It was crazy. Okay. I turned that into tenacity. And in the next 15 months, I made 610 grand. Okay. And that's how you can take, and I wouldn't never like reproduce that bad situation, but you can take the responsibilities, the pressures that are in your everyday life, you can turn them into tenacity, and then go get after it and make a big impact on the market. All right. So that's tenacity. That's the football coach coming out of me. But I'm going to talk about consistency and also, how you become more trusted as a broker, how to become better trusted. You provide more value to the client by going above and beyond. And I didn't want to ramble here, but like, even if you're not asked to, okay? Even if you haven't like engaged with them in a relationship yet, okay? So, what does that look like for you? And I know that like this is said often, you got to provide value to the client, provide value to the client. But I wanted to give a few examples of like what that can look like in a very practical setting. Okay, so a few examples here is like an operating expense analysis. All right, so maybe you're not even prompted to, but you go out and you do the research, and it's probably written down somewhere. I know I was knocking spreadsheets earlier, but it's probably in a spreadsheet. The property taxes, the insurance, the repairs, maintenance, management, all of these expenses per square foot. Even you can throw vacancy in there, management fees, whatever it may be. All of these per square foot, and simply doing an audit, simply doing an analysis for a property owner, you will likely get paid nothing for simply doing that analysis, nor should you ask to be paid. However, when you do something like that, you're immediately providing value, you're going above and beyond, you have information that they don't have, and you can also help them realize that, hey, they can increase the value of their property by shopping new insurance, getting a new management company, whatever it may be. So that type of value creation lasts with the client. Same thing with a rent survey. So Bo Beery talked about this, but he does this a lot with Central North Florida multifamily. And he has some of the best data. He has probably the best data, sorry, co-star, in the world for multifamily in Central Florida and North Florida. Okay, and he sends it out via email, and all the property owners know that he's the best of the best when it comes to this data. And when he cold calls property owners, he's looking to serve them by doing a rent survey, right? Because if you're 15%, 25% below market value and you don't know it, like, hey, Bo Beery is going to help you raise the value of your asset by 15 to 20%, right? By just making you aware of that and putting a plan in place. And then when they go raise the value of their asset by $2 or $3 million over the next 12 months, then who do you think they're going to call, right? It's going to be Bo. And then also a market vendors list. This one is sticky because you got to be careful. You don't like be the guy that's just like, hey, this is what's wrong with your property. But when you cold call a property owner and you say something like, hey, just wanted to let you know that there's an oak tree in the front that looks dead. And we got, storm season here in Florida. This might be something you want to get removed here in the next few months or so. Just wanted to let you know. And like to think that a property owner now realizes that you've been at their property, that the tree is falling down, that the paint is faded, these things, like that kind of blows their mind, right? Because a lot of people like are dial tone assassins, and they, will dial for dollars behind the computer, which there's nothing wrong with. But for those that have been out and seen the property and put foot on the property, that immediately differentiates you from the other 3, 5, 10, 100 brokers that have called them, today. Consistency holds the keys. So we know how to provide value in those different structures now, but what about the consistency? Okay, so consistency holds the keys to the income that you want, right? To your goals, to those things. Consistency holds the keys. So this is how you can ensure that the timing is always right. All right, because that's one thing we're talking about is like the timing is going to be right at some point in time. How do we ensure that as a broker? So tiered prospecting, some folks use this. Good strategy. This is what it looks like. Okay, so this is a very simple tiered strategy for your database, and say, hey, I have a 500 property database. I'm going to call 0 to 100, property number 0 to 100 in 2 weeks in January, and then 100 to 200 the 2 weeks at the end of January, etc. Okay, so this is a good structure, and this way that you can talk to this 500 property database once per quarter. Okay, so if you do it this way, you'll talk to, well, with connection rates. I mean, it might be far less than this, but you will attempt to contact 600 properties, whatever you set, 1,000 properties every quarter, which is a good strategy. Okay, I believe this is a good strategy. I don't think it's a great strategy, if you want me to be honest, and it's a good strategy for today. All right. Disclaimer: you can probably still make $250,000 a year by doing this strategy. Maybe more, maybe less, but this is a strategy that does work. However, it's only one touch per quarter. Okay. And here's the tricky part: you better not fall off, right? We have all been there where it's like we have this 500, 700,000 property database. Man, I am a savage cold caller for like 6 weeks, right? And then more deals are in the pipeline. Something else happens, work schedule, this, that, the other, like things happen. You aren't using the list anymore. You find a new list and you get on that list because it's better, or you're working with more buyers, whatever it is. But it's very easy to fall off this schedule. Okay. What is the strategy for tomorrow? You can take the strategy and you guys can win. But what I believe the strategy for tomorrow is this. So I believe that what prospecting will look like in the future is going to be value driven, it's going to be consistent, and it's going to be from multiple angles, right? We talked about there being what did we say, 5 trillion phone calls per year, 14 billion a day. I think that rolls out to. And if you are prospecting from multiple angles, that is going to drastically improve your connection rates, right? Because if you call 100 properties, or say 100 dials, how many connection points are you getting? Like 10%, 15% is like rock star, right? So if you're talking to 10 to 15 people for every 100 you call, like that is a dang good connection rate. However, when you do it from multiple angles, you have a much, much higher connection rate. So I want to show you what that looks like. So when you sequence your prospecting, it can look like this. Okay. And guys, no secret. Cat's been out the bag of what we're doing for a while, but this is what we've built with Rec. Okay. And this is how we believe as a company that we are changing prospecting forever. And also, guys, like you don't have to use our stuff. Okay. You don't have to buy our stuff. We'd love you to, and we'd love to serve you extremely well, and help you go crush it together. And our software can help automate a lot of this, but you can go send the direct mail, like send the direct mail yourself. You can send the emails. You can, I guess you can't voicemail drop without a software. You can text message manually, okay? But where software comes in is where you can do it on a mass basis, right? So you can send 500 direct mailers, 500 emails. You can drop, 300, 500 voicemails to prospect cell phones, and mass text messaging, etc. That's where software comes in. That's where we play a part. Like I said, we'd love for you to be with us at Rec, but it's not a necessity. Here's what this looks like, and here's why it is so impactful. Because let's take that same example for that Q1 prospecting efforts, okay? And this is just one example of a sequence. So say on January 1st, which I actually don't think is like a weekday. I don't know what day of the week that is, but it's, your first attempt in January is going to be a piece of direct mail, say, okay? You send that to 500 property owners, all right? So that's 500 attempts, okay? And then you send a digital version of that direct mail to make sure they got it by email 2 weeks later. Okay. So that recognition of like, hey, they just saw it in their mailbox and now they see it in their email inbox. Okay. There's some like they're connecting the dots here. Okay. But then what about when they get a voicemail drop to their cell phone, and you can send a voicemail drop that says, hey, see, John, it's Augie. Just wanted to let you know, I sent you some materials about transactions in your area, about your industrial property. So if you can give me a call back, it'd be greatly appreciated. Here's my phone number. So general voicemail, it's about your industrial property because I've noticed C. John's one of 500 industrial owners in my market. And then you can drop that as a voicemail. Okay. So now all of a sudden you're waiting for calls back. Like if you're a broker and you want your phone to ring rather than make other people's phones ring, like say hey yo, because that's the name of the game, right? That's how this business goes. And same thing with mass text messaging and phone calling. When you do this in a sequence, so now what we've done is you've made 500 attempts 5 different times. Okay. And the best part about this is 5 different angles, right? So not only, just based on what I showed you before, the tiered prospecting, that you're making 500 calls in Q1. With this, you're making 500 attempts 5 times. We're all math wizards. That's a 5x in activity. Okay. But here's where the secret sauce kind of jumps in is there's 5 different angles here. Okay. And that skyrockets the connection because you're going to get the bad phone numbers. All right. You're going to send the piece of mail to a PO box that's never going to get checked. Okay. But when you send it to, you send the direct mail, the email, the phone call, the text, the voicemail drop, like you are coming at them from all angles. So this is truly what I believe can skyrocket your connection rates and your results by your prospecting efforts. As I mentioned, guys, like take a picture of this, write this down, and come up with a framework for yourself of like how you want to tier this. Okay. If you have the time, if you have a VA or an admin, etc., like you can do this in a manual process. You don't have to buy our stuff. Okay. However, if you do want to buy our stuff, like this is what we've built with Rec, right? And this is what I've realized, and this is our whole mission is to help brokers be more efficient with their prospecting, to do more deals, to make a bigger impact on their market, and better support the people they love. Okay, that's entirely what we're here to do. So, like I said, you don't have to buy our stuff, guys, but we'd love it if you did. But be sure to make this framework for yourself and stick to it either way. But to tell you more about what we're doing here at Rec and what we've built is exactly what I've said. So we have a power dialer in the platform. Do not test this guy, by the way. He is definitely juicing. He will get popped on a test. All right. It actually makes me feel a little insecure if you want me to be honest. But we have a power dialer. You can, call through prospects 3 to 5 times faster. Okay. Mass text messaging. All right. Mass email, voicemail dropper, and direct mail as well. And these are the functionalities of the future. And other industries are using these guys. But like I said, the candle store is crushing us. Okay. We're still using notepads and cell phones. Okay. But it's time that we adopt some technology and we go out and better serve our prospects more consistently, more efficiently from different angles. The real power in this, as I mentioned before, is the ability to set it up in a sequence. So if you can go in January 1 and you send what I told you earlier, direct mail, email, voicemail drop, text message, etc., you can set this up in a sequence and have the ability to have this run, because once you do these things, like everything except power dialing takes a significant amount of time. Okay. Mass texting takes 10 minutes. To build a direct mailer, there's templates and everything, might take you 45 minutes. Voicemail drop, same thing, 5 to 10 minutes. Mass email, 20, 30 minutes. Okay. So these are attempts that you can be making to your contacts with software and with automation. All right. And that's what we've built here at Rec, and we're incredibly excited to take it to the moon next year. And I say that we're launched, we're out, we're live, but we all know that, like, hey, systems and processes are built this year. The reps that we put in today, the systems that we adopt today, and the things that we start to grow, like we're going to see massive ROI on these things in Q1, Q2, Q3 next year. And a lot of you believe that as well. Like, hey, more than $300,000, $500,000 additional GCI. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this video and you got some strategic tips in order to take your prospecting to new heights. That is the #1 way to put more deals in the pipeline, and we are cheering you on as you do so. So please follow along, subscribe to the channel, follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, all the other social media channels. We will be there giving you more commercial real estate tips to put more deals in the pipeline and better support the people you love. Talk soon. Peace.